Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting.
Out on the edge of the battle and back, we've carried the weight and we've walked every track. From desert dust to the fire at home, we've learned how to fight, how to stand alone. But no one tells you what comes after the war. When silence is louder than the guns we bore, that's where we speak, that's where we heal. Stories too real for Hollywood reels. Welcome to the front lines you don't always see. We're warriors to battle just differently. This is our check-in, our voice, our step. This is the HomeFront Sitrep podcast. For the fallen, the fighting, and those who came home. For the brothers and sisters who still feel alone. We're holding the line with truth and respect. This is the HomeFront Sitrep podcast. For the fallen, the fighting, and those who came home. For the brothers and sisters who still feel alone. We're holding the line with truth and respect. This is the HomeFront Sitrep podcast. It ain't all medals and waving flags. There's pain in the silence and weight in the bags. But we've got a mic and a mission to share, to tell the damn truth, cause somebody's gotta care. We laugh, we cry, we cuss, we pray. We honor the ones who ain't here today. From basic to battle and back to the block. This is our rhythm, our round table talk. Welcome to the front lines you don't always see. We're warriors to battle just differently. This is our check-in, our voice, our step. This is the HomeFront Sitrep podcast. Still heavy in dreams out of reach. For the lessons the textbooks could never teach. We're sounding off, no filter, no prep. This is the HomeFront Sitrep podcast. So if you're born the boots or love someone who did, if you swallowed your hurt and kept it all hid, pull up a chair, you're not alone. Welcome to the front lines you don't always see, where courage meets scars and raw honesty. This is our anthem, our truth intercept. This is the HomeFront Sitrep podcast. For the ones still standing and those we've lost yet, for every single story we'll never forget. We speak so others won't forget. This is the HomeFront Sitrep podcast. Real talk, real vets, real life. HomeFront Sitrep podcast, where the mission continues.
Welcome everybody to a Monday edition of HomeFront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Mr. Ty Cobb, welcome to the show, and how are you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. I like your intro. That's pretty cool, bro.
Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. I got the inspiration from you guys, so thank you. But no, so it looks different today. Ty Cobb is filling in for Gunny. Gunny is in Wyoming doing his reset. He actually landed, I think, a couple hours ago, and he's getting ready to do his fishing trip out there in Wyoming. So he's going to be off grid for the next week. He won't be back until, I don't know when he'll be back. I know he's gone for a week, and then he's super busy after that. But Mr. Ty Cobb has come on, and he's going to join with us tonight. So how's the family and everything going on out there in Houston? And how is the Triple Threat Vet podcast going?
Everything's going good here in Houston. Everything's going great with the podcast. We've got a lineup. We've got the former 13th Sergeant Major of the Army, Kenneth Preston, coming up. We got a combat veteran, Drew Hernandez, and we got all kinds of great guests planned. But I will say that I appreciate your show, and then I appreciate the tip of the spear, man. I appreciate everything you're doing in the podcast space, bro. Keep holding it down for Kentucky.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Gunny is in the chat at the present moment in time. Gunny, we hope you have a great trip out there doing your reset out there in Wyoming.
I
know we keep doing it. We keep doing it. You know what? Here, I'll put my mouse down and let you be the producer. How about that?
Gotcha.
So you guys are in for a great show tonight. We got another Marine that's going to come on. and talk about Intelligent Waves. He's the president and CEO of Intelligent Waves, Tony Crescenzo. And I hope I didn't screw that up too bad. I hope I didn't. But Tony is the president and chief executive officer of Intelligent Waves, with the overall responsibility of leading the company's strategic growth initiatives with leading edge innovation, executive management, leadership, and expansion into new markets. Tony is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. He joined the Intelligent Waves team after serving as CEO of IntelliDyne since 2013. In his tenured 30-year plus career, he has held strategic leadership positions all over the place. He was the founder and CEO of Analysis Frameworks and partnered at the management consulting firm Achievance, where he led the strategy practice for clients in the federal market. So intelligentwaves.com, that's intelligentwaves.com. Definitely go to, what's up, Mr. Adam Bird? How are you, sir? Definitely go check out Intelligent Waves. But we're going to bring Tony up here in just a minute and talk about his military service. And then he's got a whole plethora of things that he does besides be the CEO of Intelligent Waves. So I'm super excited to have him on the show to talk about what he's doing and what his company's doing, and then everything else that he's got going on for veterans in Virginia, where he's at. So, Mr. Ty Cobb, you ready to bring him up?
There we go.
Let's do this one here. Welcome to the show, Tony. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me. Hey, I just have a great time trying to hear a guy from Kentucky pronounce Crescenzo.
Did I do it right?
You did it great. I couldn't spell it till I was 15, so I wouldn't worry too much about how it gets pronounced.
Man, I tried not to butcher it too much. Here I am from Kentucky, and I do got my Southern drawl, and so I was sitting here practicing saying it, and I was like, man, I hope I don't butcher it too bad. Because
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Well, last night we had Tony DeMaio on the show, and his is DEMAIO, and I was like, is it DeMaio or so? Yeah, I was trying not to butcher it too bad. So, welcome to the world of HomeFront Sitrep, sir.
Thank you very much. I have to tell you, I agree with Ty that that intro is probably the coolest intro I've seen on any podcast. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. I try, and it is very Marine heavy because both Gunny and I are both jarheads. So I definitely went Marine heavy on it, but I had to represent, the air, land, and sea because that's what the Marine Corps is all about. So I had to make sure I put all of that in there. But, being a veteran podcast, I think I should throw a little bit of Army, a little bit of Air Force, and a little bit of Navy, Coast Guard. I'll definitely leave the Space Force out, though. So do me a favor, Mr. Tony. Welcome to the show. And if you can introduce yourself to the world of HomeFront Sitrep, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'm Tony Crescenzo, as our wonderful host kind of went through a lot of fancy words. I'm president and CEO of Intelligent Waves. We're a national defense industrial-based contractor. We're kind of an interesting company. If you go to monster.com's best company for veterans and look at the list, you'll see, I think it's Lockheed or Boeing is number one. We're number two. This company was founded by an Army veteran who went back to Iraq after he got out of the Army to work on the Joint IED Defense Program in terms of defeating all of the different IEDs that we were facing during the war, and grew the business significantly before I even got here. So we're a company full of people who wore green suits and then one day put on a blue suit. 65% of our employees are veterans. 3/4 of those are combat veterans. About half of those are special operations veterans, Delta, Navy SEALs, Marine Raiders. So we're an organization really focused on frontline mission support. To give you an idea of some of the things we do, we are the defender of the U.S. judiciary system from a cyber standpoint. We have a role in all the cyber defense for U.S. judiciary, for all the court systems. We do support to most of DoD. We do a lot of work with the Air Force and the F-35 program. About 85% of the work we do is classified above top secret. Most of our employees sit in a skiff, if you know what that is. If you don't, it's a copper room with no windows that really sucks because the ventilation's bad. And you can't bring your phone in, which is really awful because then your wife or your husband wants to know what you're doing and you can't tell them anyway. But very interesting company, lots of growth. We are mission focused folks who are supporting current missions. That's literally what we do. So interesting. You guys don't mind a little direct language, right? I got to ask that up front. I mean, it's Marines and Army, but
Well, so we just keep it to a minimum because of Reach
yeah,
Across America Radio. So
sure.
we don't mind it, but we got to keep it to a minimum.
So if you're, our motto is anytime, anywhere, any domain. But what we tell people internally is we just do hard shit in bad places,
There you go.
which is pretty much the from the founder on to the last employee we hired is pretty much what we're about. Our value proposition is flash to bang. We find mission problems and we solve them quicker than just about anybody else. Give you a great example: stealth aircraft, F-35, F-22. You don't see it, hear it, find it on IR, find it on radar. Unfortunately, the minute you key a microphone, you're creating radio frequency energy, and that radio frequency energy causes all kinds of problems. I'll give you another great example. Since you guys are both veterans, you're running a company-size reconnaissance element in Ukraine, and so you go set up a TOC. If you're not familiar with that, folks listening to the podcast, that's a tactical operations center. It's a big GP tent out in the field, bunch of radios, bunch of guys running around who are pretty well fed, standing around a commander, and then you start running patrols. Every once in a while, you go, "Oh, there's a whole bunch of Russians," and then you get on the radio and call for fire. And about 3 minutes after you call for your fire, the Russians are triangulating that RF signal and sending artillery back at you. Well, we decided to help out with that. We package up what's called Li-Fi. You're familiar with Wi-Fi, which is wireless fidelity. Li-Fi is communication via modulated light. It's a bunch of photons just talking to each other. So it can't be intercepted. It can't be jammed. We put that 600 meters out in 6 cardinal directions from the TOC, and you know why it's 600 meters, because danger close.
Yep.
Call for fire, and you get counter battery fire, and what does it do? It blows up a bunch of trees 600 meters away until you run out of antennas, and you got to start all over again. So that's kind of the crux of what we do. And while we were doing this, we do work for the Air Force Weapons School. That's their version of Top Gun, where we support we started with a physical human performance program. And a couple of years ago, they came to us and asked us about cognitive human performance, post-combat stress downregulation, cognitive issues, sleep. And turned out that there was a kind of a wild west of issues there. I think you guys are both veterans. You've both been downrange. Sleep is the most precious commodity we have in the military. Even when you're in garrison, you still don't sleep that much.
Yep.
So we wound up actually creating a suite of technologies that we use today to treat TBI, post-traumatic stress, combat stress, trauma. We use it for upregulation and we use it for sleep. And we work with a number of both well-known and classified organizations in bringing this technology to market. We're also working with professional sports teams, Division I football, and educational institutions to make this available broadly across the country.
Nice. Okay. So you guys are doing some major stuff out there with the military, DoD, and all of this. What do you guys what are y'all doing anything local, like here in stateside, or what's the word I'm looking for, Ty? God, it doesn't slip my brain there for a second. But what do y'all do on the home front for veterans other than hire them? Let's put that.
Great question. So I had a pretty atypical Marine Corps career. I spent 8 years in Marine Corps in total. You talked earlier about, I think your best friend was a recruiter for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's a funny thing. No, you know what? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and make an assumption about Ty, right? So why do people join the Air Force? It's a great standard of living. Like Air Force E3 lives better than a Marine Corps colonel. If you've ever been to Midway Park in Camp Lejeune, you know what I'm talking about. Join the Navy to see the world. You join the Army because you get great training, also college education, plus big Army has a lot of opportunities. Why do people join the Marine Corps?
To be the best of the best.
They want to be John Wayne in Sands of Iwo Jima. Except most of us don't watch the whole movie, and then you discover John Wayne dies in Sands of Iwo Jima. But Marines, they just want to blow stuff up, right? So nobody joins the Marine Corps to be a recruiter. That's like being a used car salesman. Now, I wouldn't say that if I was in the Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps will tell you the top 5% or top 10% of Marines get selected for one of 3 independent duty stations. Inspector instructor, where you're training reservists and you're doing funerals and cross-country chasing and picking up people. Drill field, which lots of Marines want to do, except you find out that's 24 hours a day. It's actually 30 hours a day. You usually wind up with your wife or husband pretty pissed at you for that. And then you have recruiting. So I'm a Beirut era veteran. I spent a significant amount of time there. And when that was over and I came back, I was an 0211, so I was a counterintelligence Marine. And I was reassigned to independent duty, except I wasn't really going there for that. I wound up working 3 years, almost 3 years undercover for what you know as NCIS. Back in the day, it used to be NIS on a computer fraud and kind of drug thing. That
you were the original Gibbons.
No, worse than that, man.
Okay.
I don't know what you'd call me. I wound up putting 10 Marines in the General Court Martial and the Navy Corpsman, all getting convicted. And then about 3 weeks after that, and I'm sure Willis knows this. I don't know about you, Todd, but Marine Corps is real small. It's about 187,000 Marines right now. Everybody knows everybody. So when you're putting company first sergeant, batteries, artillery battery first sergeant, you're putting those guys in a general court martial. They got lots of friends, and at the time I was a corporal. And believe it or not, the whole incident ended with me getting court-martialed and being 20 minutes late to work.
Holy cow!
Fined $20. Lost my security clearances. I wound up at a reserve unit in Garden City, New York, as a files clerk for 8 months in a room with no windows, and nobody in the place wanted to talk to me. You can imagine what that's like. And that's after, during my testimony, the folks, I don't know if it was them or not, but 4 witnesses in the trial, 2 were murdered, tried to kill the other 2, including me, and didn't work out for those, for them. But 8 months to the day after that court martial, in walked PX Kelly, if you remember him, he's a commandant of the Marine Corps, and his aide de camp with a check for $20. They overturned my court martial, a commandant's letter of commendation, a medal, and a copy of the 4-page letter of apology that PX Kelly wrote to my mother. But you can imagine, you guys you're both Iraq veterans, right?
Yes. Right.
So I can't imagine what it's like to be in combat for years at a time. It just wasn't like that back in my day. But I can tell you that job was the equivalent of this. So you ever have to go clear a house?
Yeah.
Right. So that's 12 Marines and a corpsman if they let the corpsman go. You get in a big stack. Well, this was my day for 2.5 years. Standing in front of that door, lieutenant walks up and says, "Hey, take off your sappy plates and your body armor. All right, now give me your helmet. All right, now put your rifle down. Okay, here's a pistol. Stick it in the back of your blouse. Okay, now go in alone." That was every day for 2.5 years, not knowing if you're going to come out of that house. And then at the end of it, of course, the Marine Corps, what's our motto? Semper Fidelis, always faithful.
Yes,
always. We
always.
don't leave our dead or wounded on the battlefield. So I'm literally in a room 15 feet from the people I'm testifying against for the months that this trial was going on, because the Marine Corps didn't want to move me because some regimental commander thought it was more efficient to keep me there. And I'm writing letters to my congressman, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. So you can imagine that probably created a little bit of PTSD for somebody like me. I spent a lot of time, most of my adult life, not even realizing how angry I was. Of course, my first wife, second wife, and daughter would tell you. So would half the people I wound up in bar fights with. And anybody who ever got in a car with me never wanted to be in there. So, I had all the same issues I think that a lot of folks do when they get out of the military. And it was fortunate for me that I found the technology that we're using today. It actually resolved my PTSD in less than a month. After going to a VA therapist who I thought was going to really be great for me. He's a Vietnam veteran, 3 tours in Vietnam. And after 2 sessions, he told me he couldn't treat me because I was triggering him.
Mm.
That was a pretty long run up to. So my time in the Marine Corps, when I got out, there wasn't a lot of transition assistance. There was no transition. My transition was a sergeant major saying, "Take off that uniform and go home." And I remember my first job, I was writing pill bottle quality control at Merck, the pharmaceutical company, which is in New Jersey. And it's this big, giant 300-yard long building, manufacturing offices altogether. And I was working with a bunch of people from Jersey who were, you ever know anybody? And look, I went to college in New Jersey, so I won't say it's all bad, but people from Jersey have kind of an attitude. And this guy was not nice. He was kind of condescending and kind of I'll use the word a-hole. How's that? I won't be too bad on that. Um, and one day he pushed me a little too far, and I turned to him and I said, "Listen, if you talk to me like that again, I'm going to knock you out." Said a little bit more rough, but I'm going to knock you out. And he laughed because he was from Jersey, and I guess they all talk like that. And the next thing you know, I'm chasing him through the building, all 300
Mm.
yards into the parking lot. As he's driving away, I'm looking at my watch going, "Oh, this must be when I get fired from this and go to work for UPS. That's going to be my new career." Sure enough, 20 minutes later, my boss calls and says, "Hey, come on up to the office. I need to talk to you." I walk in, he's got this funny look on his face. And I said, he said, "Tell me what happened." And I told him the guy was a jerk and he'd been a jerk for months. And I warned him. And by the way, I'm sure at least Willis, you can appreciate this, and Tom, maybe you. Um, in the Marine Corps, there's no HR. If you have an
Yeah.
interpersonal problem at work, you go behind a squad bay for 15 minutes, get a little
Tree line.
exercise, and yeah. And then you have a beer. So for me, it was just that was a culture, that I grew up in the Marine Corps. Meanwhile, my boss says, "Well, I know you weren't going to hurt him." And I said, "No, if I'd have caught him, I'd have beat the shit out of him." But he said, "Well, be that as it may, he is kind of a jerk. So we just fired him. Go back to work, try not to hurt anybody." And I'm looking around going, "What the hell just happened?" My
No.
boss was a Air Force fighter pilot, 31 mission Vietnam veteran. But for him, where would I be?
Yeah.
So that for me was kind of a defining moment that made me want to pay it forward. So years later, I'm on the board of advisors of the Semper Fi and America's Fund. You're probably familiar with that. Most of the
Yeah.
fiduciary boards, all the commandants. It's the only place I ever go to a meeting where you walk in a room and somebody says, "Hey, General," and everybody turns around but me. And if you remember Sergeant Major Kent, Sergeant Major Marine Corps, he's on
Yep.
the board there too. So when I ran IntelliDyne, we actually did all the IT back end for the Semper Fi Fund, just as because we're Marines. Um, I'm also on the board of an organization called Warriors Ethos. Warriors Ethos is all about veterans transition. We pick you up within 18 months of your end of service or 18 months after your end of service. We give you help in writing a resume, translating your military skills, coaching. There's a mentor for every person who goes through that program. That's and for your listeners, if you're in or you just got out and you're looking for transition assistance, it's a nonprofit. You don't get charged anything. It's www.warriorsethos.com. Warriors Ethos is a fabulous organization. They're just nominated here in Virginia for Veteran Service Organization Award. Last year, Intelligent Waves was the winner of the Veteran Service Organization Award
Oh,
here
nice.
for all the things we do for our veterans. And I really got tired of getting phone calls from my friends saying, "Hey, I just had an employee who went sideways and we got to find him a program because the VA doesn't have anything." So, up for the last 10 or 15 years, I've been really focused on the both mentoring veterans. Intelligent Waves is a defense contractor, can enter into mentoring relationships with veteran-owned businesses. And we do. We have a company that we mentor right now, as well as mentoring. It's kind of interesting. I hope he's not listening to this, but he might be. I got a phone call from Sergeant Major Kent about 3 months ago. He said, "I know this colonel who's retiring from the Marine Corps, and he's looking for some advice on his transition. I told him all about you and how you're doing. And would you be willing to talk to him?" I said, "Well, of course I'll be willing to talk to him." And I get on the phone with him, and he's the deputy MARSOC commander.
Mm.
And after about 20 minutes of talking to him, I realized, and I said to him, "Hey, the apple don't fall far from the tree." And he says, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I served with your dad."
Oh,
That's
man.
that's how deep and long these Marine Corps relationships go. So, both personally mentoring and then mentoring through the nonprofits that we work with are the things that I do. And of course, the last thing I would tell you is Peak Neuro. So Peak Neuro isn't in any of the things we're talking about. It's up in this little corner here. We spun this business off to really to focus on the commercial market, but we provide. We're working today with a 24-year retired Navy SEAL, 13 years in SEAL teams, 8 enlisted, 5 as an officer, 21 TBIs,
Mm.
concussions. He's a former Division I football player, so had a ton of concussions. He's got a PTSD diagnosis and a TBI diagnosis from the VA, and we're working with him along with many other veterans around the PTSD issue with a technology that allows you to work at home, get treated at home, deal with it at home, and often resolves these kind of major issues in much less time than it takes to go to a VA counselor. Anybody on this has been going, you go to a VA counselor, half of them have never served a day in the military, and
Yeah.
they're going to talk to you about the experience you had.
Yeah.
So, part of the issue is when you go to talk, if you're dealing with PTSD, or if you're dealing with just anxiety, stress, post-combat downregulation, you're going to send you to go talk to a psychotherapist. And what does a psychotherapist talk about? Meaning making, right? My name's Tony. I have an autobiography, and this bad thing happened to me. A bunch of people tried to blow me up 20 years ago. And while I'm gone, I came home from that. My mind is still stuck there. And so I'll go talk to a therapist. And by the way, every time I talk to the therapist, I got to relive it.
Yeah.
And when I relive it, that doesn't make it better. I mean, they have this immersion therapy where, you just do it over and over again until it doesn't hurt anymore. I don't know. That didn't work for me. So we resolve this. Typically, we resolve it with a semantic that is talking, a semantic resolution where we try to create a narrative that makes sense for us. Whatever this thing that happened to me now, it's part of my autobiography and I'm better. We take a completely different approach. We use literally, if you have an iPhone or an Android phone and a set of headphones, we use neuroacoustic entrainment technology. It's very new, fourth generation entrainment. And what it does is it shuts down the parts of your brain that engage in rumination, meaning making. And here's what I mean by rumination. You ever walk in a meeting or you go to an event and somebody says something to you, and for the rest of the day, you're like, why'd they say that? Or worse, why did I say that? You're like, damn it. And you can't shut it off. That's a rumination loop. And rumination happens up here in the front part of your brain. And it's called the prefrontal dorsolateral cortex. We shut that down and open up the back of your brain. And what happens is you can re-experience that trauma without the emotion. And your body digests it almost like you digest food. Now, does it happen overnight? No, but it happens very effectively. The person I talked about, this 24-year Navy SEAL, all the stuff that he's done downrange, in 30 days, he used to sleep 3 hours a night, not all in a row. Now he sleeps 6 hours a night completely in a row. No interruptions. He gets very deep sleep. You know what wakes him up? His dog. His dog is old and has to go to the bathroom.
Oh man.
But resolving the headaches, resolving the hypervigilance. I'm sure you guys are, if you're not like me or like I used to be, every time you walk in a restaurant, you better be sitting with your back to the room because you got to see what's going on. It's hypervigilance. And all of us suffer from that. This helps you resolve that, and you can do it at home. You don't have to have the stigma of talking to 20 other people or talking to somebody who doesn't know what you've been through. You can do this with a therapist. We actually work through clinical therapists as well. And if you can download an app from the App Store or Google Play, you can get help. If you're having issues with sleep, you can get help. And that's what Peak NOAA really focuses on. And we make that available. If you're a veteran in crisis, by the way, and you're listening to this podcast, send an email to the podcast host. They will contact me, and we will do this for you for nothing.
So, question for you: let's say there's active duty personnel that's still serving, and let's say they have TBI, they have whether they got PTSD or MST. Is peak neural available for them while they're on active duty? And how would the chain of command, do you think the chain of command would react to that?
Well, it's funny. We actually do work with DOD and the military on this with this right now, but it's very new and it's not out in the total force yet. If you're an individual, you're on active duty, and you want to use it, you can. You can go to the App Store and download it. Just look for an app called Peak Neuro. When you get it, you can send us an email, tell us who you are, and we'll put some things on there that'll will help you. Uh, my goal, my hope is that the military adopts this for post-combat downregulation. We work with fighter pilots right now. We're working on. Give you a great example. If you're an F-35 pilot and you're living at Nellis Air Force Base, you get up in the morning, you go over the flight line, get in your poopy suit, hop in the airplane, and then your average time in the air, your average sortie time is about 15.7 hours. If you're a B-52 pilot, it's 36.6 hours. So you'll get up in the morning in Las Vegas and fly all the way across the world. You'll be over doing some things that are very high stress, two tanker refills on the way there, 2 tanker refills on the way back. You land the aircraft 1800, 1830, and on your way home, your spouse calls and says, "Hey, honey, we got to go to a PTA meeting tonight." Who wants to do that, right? I'll give you another great example. I'll quote the Combat Development Directorate at Delta Force. We're talking to the folks who run that, and here's the scenario they gave us. Young guy just out of the operator course, gets on an airplane, goes over to Italy. From Italy, gets on a helicopter. Helicopter goes to Syria, pick up a high-value target, snatch and grab, surveillance mission, or just kill a bunch of folks. Get back on the helicopter, back on the airplane, lands in Bragg, driving home. Their spouse says, "Hey, pick me up a gallon of milk." Stop at the store, pick up a gallon of milk, walk in the house, open the pantry, and throw the milk in there because that's where the goddamn milk goes. Can't downregulate. So our goal here is to make this available to the entire combat military and non-combat military. Highest suicide rate in the Air Force is drone pilots sitting at Creech Air Force Base. Why is that? Well, if I'm driving an F-35, F-22, I drop a bomb, shoot a missile. I'm not waiting around to see what happens. If I'm running a UAV, I'm watching the collateral damage. I'm seeing it. And that one of our medical advisors is the retired Deputy Surgeon General of the Air Force, Sean Murphy, Major General Sean Murphy, who that's his mission in life, is to help those kinds of folks overcome the issues and the stresses that come with those jobs.
Awesome. Now, so it says here that it don't tell me the title of your book, but I'm assuming you have a book coming out, or you already got one out, correct?
No, me read a book. I'm a Marine, man.
Well, it says
The only books
co-author. It says co-author here this is what I got from John.
I have written a number of academic papers. I wouldn't call them books. And the kinds of papers that I've written, unless you got an alphabet after your name, they're, PhD, MA, MD, EI, EIO, you probably don't want to read it.
There you go.
Now, people have said you should write a book. The only problem is if I write a book, it probably comes in crayons. So,
hey, there's nothing wrong with that. You see all the snacks up here, right? All the crayons.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, all kinds of crayons up there. Man, so all right, so you were talking about hypervigilance, PTSD, going through therapy at the VA, right? So when I started my journey at the VA 2 years ago, because a little over 2 years ago, I was, one of the dumb guys that said, "Oh, there's other veterans out there that need the VA more than I do."
That's not dumb. We all do it. If you're not doing it, there's something wrong with you. But we all do it. I did.
Right. So for almost 20 years, my wife is like, "Hey, you need to go to VA. You need to go to VA," and I'm like, "Man, there's other veterans that need it more than I do. I have a good job. I got insurance. You guys are taken care of." And she's like, "No, your PTS, your anxiety, your hypervigilance has got worse over the course of the 23 years we've been married."
Yeah.
So when I started my process, they're like, "Well, we're going to put you with a VA therapist." And I'm like, "Well, can I do community consult?" I said, because my job doesn't allow me to take off during the middle of the day to go to see these doctors. And they're like, "Sure, that's fine." And then I've heard all these war stories of veterans that go see their therapist, and they've had this therapist for 3 months. And then they go in the next time that therapist is gone. So they have to relive, because they have to tell a new person their story all over again. So lucky for me, my therapist, I've had him the whole time that I've been there. He's in his own private, well, not private practice, but a group of therapists together. He's the son of a Marine, so he's never he don't know exactly the stuff that we go through as veterans, right? But he's lived with a Marine his whole life, right? And so he understands to a certain extent some of the PTSD and stuff. For me, most of my PTS come from Haiti. So I was in Haiti in '99. Gunny and we were both in Haiti in '99, and it's more moral injury than PTSD, but they're both, they're like this.
Yep.
And we were told we were not to interfere with the local customs, stuff that goes on locally. So, as a 19-year-old driving through the marketplace in Haiti, seeing tires wrapped around people and they're screaming because they're burning, that's etched into my brain, right? And then, seeing people being drugged behind vehicles with comm wire wrapped around their neck or their hand chopped off. That's stuff that I'll be dead asleep and I'll wake up, just sit up, and I'm sweating from head to toe. And my wife is like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
And I tried to explain to her that I'm reliving this. Or if I'm driving down the road and all of a sudden that smell that I smelt there, it just transports me right back to that. So, luckily for me, going to see my therapist, I was able to, for the last 2 or almost 2 years, have the same therapist.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll ever be free and clear of my PTSD, but I'm definitely going to look into Peak Neuro and check it out, because if it can help me eliminate it even more than what it is right now, because doing the podcast is also helps, because I get to talk to other like-minded veterans and and see their story and hear their story, and it's just like, all right, so I know I'm not alone, and I think if Peak Neuro can help even advance that even more, where I'm not anxious all the time, because Sunday mornings getting ready for church, I want to leave at a certain time. And if we ain't leaving and in the truck at that moment in time, my anger just goes from 0 to 100 really, really quickly. And I start yelling, and then my wife starts yelling back, and my kids start yelling back. And it's just like, you guys know that's a trigger for me.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah. And
if you ain't 5 minutes early, you're late. Get in the car.
Yeah. So, it's just like, because when I go to church, I have to have a certain spot. Like I have to be in a certain spot. And if I don't get that spot, I'll sit up at the back with my back against the wall. And my wife's like, "Come sit down." I was like, "Nope, can't do it." Because I can't sit in the middle of the aisle and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's just, I definitely want to try Peak Neural and see how it does for me. So I'm going to download the app, so do I need to email you after I download the app?
No, you and I will talk after the podcast, and I'll set you up directly with this.
Cool.
Cool. I'll tell you, having been through the experience, nobody ever really gets over it. You just kind of make friends with it. But
yeah,
I can tell you this: the need to be hypervigilant, that how you get angry so fast, even the nightmares. I used to have them 2 or 3 times a week over 36 years of marriage, 2 different wives, and I haven't had a nightmare in 3 years, not one. And the good news is you don't have to do this forever. You do it until you're essentially, I'm trying to keep the science light here. There are state level changes that happen, and a state level change is temporary. So I can listen to some things that make me calm, and then when it's over, an hour later, it wears off, and I'm right back where I was. This actually rewires the neurons in your brain, and gives them the opportunity to create new connections that were broken when you had these kinds of issues downrange. And it allows you to get to a place where you can see the whole thing, you can relive the whole thing, but it's completely divorced from emotion. And what you'll find is, and I know this from my own personal experience, and I'm on my second marriage. When I was 55, my second wife told me that I had been in more fights since she met me than all the men she'd ever dated combined.
Mm.
And you know what I said to her? I
Simple
never
stuff.
started a fight in my life. Right?
Right.
And she'd say, no, you get them all pissed off. You poke them. Then they swing and you knock them out and go, I had no choice. And that's kind of bar fight Saturday when you're a PFC or a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps.
Yes.
So I couldn't, and that's the thing. I could never get out of that mode. But now I can tell you, like, nobody'd ever want to get in a car with me. You do not want to get in a car with me because you cut me off, you do something crazy, and it's on. Now I don't even think about it. I went through the sort of, I won't say treatment because it's not a treatment, but the therapy for this right after the pandemic.
Mm.
So I hadn't seen anybody for like a year and a half, and people that I hadn't seen in a year and a half, 2 years would run into me and go, holy cow, what happened to you? You just seem so different. And it will literally take away not just your ability, but your desire to want to react like that. I mean, you just get so programmed with fight or flight, right? It's in your brain, it's your amygdala. And what this does is it just rewires. And it's not, I heard somebody ask me the other day, is this brainwashing? Think of it this way. If I'm going to go run a marathon, I need to be in the mood to run a marathon. If I want to go to sleep, I need to be ready for sleep. And what this does is it creates a frame that allows you to do the things you want to do. It doesn't force you to do them. It doesn't, it's not a brainwashing. It's not a brainwashing technique. It's a way that allows you to create a framework and a state where you can get to be where you want to be anyway. Brings you back to kind of your normal self.
Mm. I love it. Ty, I know you're writing a lot of stuff down there. You got any questions that you need to ask?
Well, I'd like to go back and ask a question. Like, you seem like someone that was pretty much switched on when you were in the Marine Corps. What kind of inspired you to join the Marine Corps in the first place? I mean, you've given so much back. What was the genesis of you joining the Marine Corps?
I wish I had a better story than this, but I'll tell you the truth. There's two things. My stepfather is a retired Navy captain, and we were stationed in Hawaii in the 70s at Pearl Harbor. And he was on the Iwo Jima, I was on the Iwo Jima. He was on Saipan, off the coast of North Vietnam. And he was a supply officer, by the way. So, I think after 4 years in the Marine Corps, I had 2 more rows of ribbons than he ever had in 30 years in the Navy. He told this story, sitting in the ready room or sitting in the wardroom of the ship, watching a John Wayne movie with his buddy Stephen Pless. And Stephen Pless was this 5'7", 140-pound Huey pilot, Marine. And they're watching John Wayne movie, an alarm goes off, and there's a platoon of Marines North Vietnam on a beach getting the crap kicked out of them. They can't go in the water. There's sharks and sea snakes. They can't go forward because there's a battalion of North Vietnamese troops shooting them up. So they send in 2 CH-46 or 1 CH-46 and 2 Hueys to go pick them up. The 46 gets shot up so bad it's got to leave. The Huey gets shot down. He's hovering over this beach in a Huey, which holds, I think, 11 or 12 people, including the crew, or not including the crew and crew chief. And he is shooting the machine guns. The Marines are crawling under there. And the thing is just totally overpacked to the point where the skids are hitting the wave tops as he's trying to get back to the ship. Meanwhile, the other 2 helicopters are going. They're shooting at him. So he lands this thing on the Saipan, slams it down on the flight deck, walks in to get debriefed, takes off his helmet, and an AK round falls out of his helmet. And there's something like 250 bullet holes in this Huey. And you guys have both been downrange. What's the first thing they tell you when you get in a helicopter? Don't lean back because you'll break the skin on the damn thing. The only thing that's got armor is the engines in the crew compartment, the pilot compartment. So somehow he survived this and landed the thing. And I met him in 74, 75, when he was on his way back to get the Medal of Honor. And I didn't know he was getting the Medal of Honor. Nobody ever said anything to me. He was just a friend of my stepfather's who was visiting. But 5'7", 140, he was one of the baddest people I ever met in my life. A little cigar smoking badass. And I looked at him and went, wow, that guy, whatever he's got, I want that. Now, the funny part is he went back and I guess he got his Medal of Honor, and the president or the commandant said, hey, what do you want to do next? And he said, I want to fly jets. So they sent him down to Pensacola. and he's in transition training in Pensacola. And he was a biker. He has a big motorcycle. If you ever been to Pensacola, there's a drawbridge. And he liked to jump that bridge when he had a couple of drinks in him. And one day he goes to jump the bridge and a little too far. And witnesses swear on the way down, he's yelling "hoorah" the whole way. And of course, he didn't make it. He died when he fell on or took his motorcycle. He's on the wall. That inspired me. I looked at him and thought, wow, whatever that guy is, and he wasn't just a badass. I mean, he carried himself the way you would expect a Marine officer to carry himself. He really was an inspiration everywhere he went, lots of charisma. And then when I was in college, I made a wrong turn on the way to a Charles Correll lecture, ran into a recruiter, and the next thing I knew, I was an OCS.
There you go.
So, yeah. By the way, joining the Marine Corps to spite your Navy parents, not a good idea. That does not end well.
Right.
Well, I mean, you were the men's department of the Navy.
That is true. Well, it's funny. I got invited to an Annapolis football game just after I got out when Iraq 1 was just starting up, and I'm with a bunch of admirals, and they're all supply corps admirals. I'm in some fancy suite at the Naval Academy Stadium, and one of them looks at me and goes, "Hey, don't you want to get back in the Marine Corps and go down in the sand and have some fun?" And I look at him and I go, "Hey, not for nothing, but when that stuff happens, I'm in a hole filling sandbags, getting shot at, and pooping over the side. And you're in a chair on a ship drinking coffee, checking boxes. I think I'll stay where I'm at." And that was the last time I got invited to an Annapolis football game.
Oh, dang. What other questions you got, Mr. Ty Cobb?
No, I mean, that's it. I appreciate the turned onness of your brain. I appreciate what you're doing for veterans and their post career. What was the hardest part for you when you transitioned out of the military? Was there a point where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, or did you just know full bore what you're going to do when you got out?
Well, I got out because I figured if I stayed in, the people that I testified against were going to have friends, and that wasn't going to end well for me. But
Right.
it was hard for me, right? I got out of the Marine Corps at a time when being in the military wasn't cool. People would, when I started my first company, I went up to Wall Street, raised money, and I'd be sitting with all these investment bankers, and they'd say, "So, tell me about you." And I'm like, "Oh, 8 years in the Marine Corps," and they'd be like, "Oh, you couldn't get a real job? That's really too bad." But I think the hardest part was there was no one who, if you had served in Beirut, you were a minuscule portion of anybody ever been in combat in that generation. In fact, I ran into this. I was at an event, it was at a cocktail party. There's this old guy, like my age, sitting in the back talking about his PTSD. And I'm looking at him going, bullshit. And I go over and it turns out he was in Beirut. He was just 3 posts away from me when he was there. But there was no one around you could talk to. Vietnam veterans hated everybody back then, and I don't blame them. There just wasn't anywhere to go, and I'm sure you guys have had this thing too. You walk into this this culture that's so different than yours, right? You lose your identity, you lose your purpose, you lose your brotherhood. You lose all your connections to everything that made you who you are, and you're awash in a sea of people. And one day you look around and you go, "Holy shit, I've killed better people than this guy." And that's when you start thinking, "Well, maybe I don't belong here." Right? And that's where we start to get into the spiral. And you might be thinking about self-harm, those kinds of things. I went through all of that. You look around, I just felt like I didn't belong. I was lucky that I had run into that retired Army colonel or Air Force colonel. And I had you got Willis, you got a buddy you've been with since you went to, was it boot camp or
boot camp? Yeah, we met in boot camp. Yes.
So I have a friend. He was a sergeant. We were corporals together. He retired as a CW04. We couldn't be more different. I'm this overeducated, big word using CEO, and he looks like a fire plug. He punched me once, and my grandfather called me to say, "Stop that." And this guy is your typical Marine gunners, CW04, retired, best friend I've ever had. He's like a brother, and whenever I got into trouble, I called him. So, Dickie, if you're listening to this, I'm talking about you. But for him, I probably wouldn't be around. I mean, I was lucky that I had a network like that of people that I could call when I was down, because I don't know how it's worked out for you guys, but I went through these cycles of, I'm good. And then all of a sudden it just goes dark.
Yeah.
And you don't want to talk to anybody because there's nobody to talk to.
Yeah, that unfortunately that cycle is it's an endless loop. Um, and
Yeah,
there are days, even now, 20 plus years later, um, that I'll just be completely silent and withdrawn from my wife, my kids, and our friends group. Like we'll be at a friend's house and we're a little party going on, and I'm sitting off in the corner. My wife was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I just don't want to be here. I'm ready to go. Let's," and
yeah,
of course, she gets mad at me, but I can't control when that happens. Like it just happens.
yeah,
Normally I like hanging out with our friends and having a good time. Of course, when I was in the Marine Corps, you know, I caught my first wife cheating on me because I was young, dumb, and got married at a very early age in the Marine Corps. Caught her cheating on me, went down a rabbit hole, and I was drinking a fifth of whiskey a night.
yeah,
My chain of command said, "Oh, you got a problem. We need to send you to detox." I had a really good chain of command that took care of me. I didn't lose rank, didn't lose pay. Went to detox for 60 days. Came back from there, finished out my time and an honorable discharge, all that good jazz. Um, didn't touch alcohol for 15 plus years. And now, like, I'll drink one or two, maybe three tops, and then I'm done. I cut it off. I'm like, all right, I'm no
yeah,
more. I don't want to slip down that slope ever again. And my friends are all, getting plumb wasted. And I'm like, that's just not me. I don't, you can do it, but it's not for me. And they're like, well, why are you not drinking? I'm like, I've had my fill. I'm done. My wife, we've been together 23 years and she's probably seen me drunk twice. And that
yeah,
once was in the Dominican Republic when it was just me and her and our friends group, our adults only.
yeah,
And then a 4th of July. And that was it, in 23 years. That's the only times that she's seen me were the point where I needed some help, assistance to get to point A from A to B. But there are those cycles that I go through where I just don't want to be around anybody. And I love my wife and I love my kids, but
yeah,
unfortunately, when I get into that mindset, there's nothing that anybody can do that can get me out of that. I just have to work through it myself, and then
yeah.
then I'm fine after that. So
Well, there's it doesn't happen very often or anywhere near as often as it should, but there's a phenomenon. One part of the phenomenon is called PTSD. You have a traumatic event, whatever it is, and it knocks your resilience into the ground, and you just little things will set you off all kinds of crazy things. But if you work at it, um, there's another phenomenon that happens, and that's called PTG, post traumatic growth, where you actually get more resilient. And
yeah,
that is, I'll be happy to send you guys if you'd like to read it. The case study on this Navy SEAL, you get stronger, not weaker. PTSD not only can be, I don't want to say reverse because it never goes away, but what you create is post traumatic growth, and you get to a point where now nothing really knocks you off center. But if you want to see, like my first wife would be pissed because I was always all over the place, and my second wife is pissed because I just never get upset anymore. So I don't know. I got to find a third one that may. I hope she's not listening. But somewhere in the middle is going to be a little bit better equilibrium, equanimity, whatever that word is. But it is possible to get to a point where you're a victim of your neurology. It's funny, we have this electrical system in our body, and everybody has one, but they're as different as your looks. You might have somebody who looks like you, but they're not you. And your whole neurosystem is built on the experience of your life. And so, yeah, I can categorize combat veterans, but I can't categorize them all together. But
yeah,
for each individual person, one of the things that Peak Neuro is capable of doing, and we're actually doing this now as we speak, is we're able to read what's going on in your neurology and create a customized entrainment for you. So it takes your particular profile, and so it's not like I go to the app store and I download something that works for everybody. That anybody tells you that, they're selling they're selling you a bridge in Brooklyn. Everybody's neurosystem is different, and over time, you really need to hone this in for a particular person. which is really the beauty of Peak Neuro, because you don't have to go anywhere. We can do it over the wire.
Heck yeah. I've already downloaded it, so I just haven't played with it just yet, but I've already downloaded it. So uh, I'm definitely excited to try it and see if it helps me, which Gunny and we've talked about post-traumatic growth quite a bit on the show over the
Yeah.
course of almost 3 years. And, of course, Gunny deals with what he deals with, what he
Right.
went through. I mean, after being blown up twice and then over 45 plus surgeries later, you know, and being, having that growth. If you look at Gunny, you would never know that he was blown up twice and had 40 plus surgeries under his belt and stuff like that. And it's just like, huh. And, it's just, I know that over the course of the 2.5, almost 3 years that we've done this podcast, my PTSD has minimized. Like, it's not gone, but
Right.
it does minimize. But now, if I'm not doing this podcast, I'm thinking about the podcast. So I get like, my wife will tell you that it's like an addiction of mine. Like, I get too addicted to the podcast, and I'm always thinking about it. I mean, at one point we were doing 4 episodes a week, and the wife was like, "Well, that you're doing too much," so we had to go back down to 2. But it's like, I have an addictive personality. When I find something that works, I stick with it, and I just go balls to the wall with it. And um, me personally, I love the podcast. It does help me, uh, very much so. And I'm sure Ty can say the same thing, because he gets to talk with other veterans that are very like-minded like him and his co-hosts and stuff like that. So I'm excited to try Peak Neuro, and definitely, continue our conversation offline when it comes to other things that we've gone through, for sure. So with that being said, we are almost out of time. Mr. Tony, I want to thank you for spending this hour with us on Homefront Sitrep and talking about intelligent waves, peak neuro. What else did we talk about? warriorsethos.org. What else? We talked about a little
Crayons, eating crayons. By
Yeah,
the way,
eating
Ty, I
crayons.
loved you in the 1928 World Series. Great job.
Absolutely.
Told you I was
So
old.
we've talked about a little bit about everything. So, ladies and gents, if you're watching this now, or if you're listening to it later, or you're catching it on Reach Across America Radio, go check out peakneural.com, or you can go to the App Store and download it, or the Google Play Store, download the app there, and then email. I guess they would email you, or is there a contact in there that they email from the app?
There'll be an email there.
Okay.
Uh, uh, we'll get some instructions that you can put into this
Okay.
a little bit later, and then I'll talk to the folks at Peak Neuro and make sure that's available.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, ladies, gents, go check it out. Go to intelligentwaves.com, check out Intelligent Waves, what they're doing. Go check out peakneural.com, go check out warriorsethos.org. I believe it's .org, right?
.org. Yeah, .org.
Yeah, warriorsethos.org, and check out all the things that Mr. Tony and his company are doing. But I do want to thank you again, Tony, for coming on here and hanging out with Ty and I
Thanks for
for
having
this
me. It's a
hour.
pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're going to drop you down in the green room, and then we're going to close out the show, and then we'll chit chat right after we close it out.
I'll see you afterwards. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone. Pleasure to be
Thank
here.
you. How cool was that, Ty?
Yeah, man. I like throwing out as many tools as you can to veterans, and if something works, then absolutely. I love the network he's building, and I love the different things he's involved in. I mean, that's a guy that obviously is turned on, always looking to innovate, and the problems that, like, we don't want F-35s, we don't want their firmware to get messed up, we don't want their trunk keys to get compromised. We want all that stuff to stay secure as can possibly be. So people like that out there, keep fighting the good fight, and then hopefully a lot of these programs that he's talking about will get some of this third-party funding through the VA, so we can get some direct help for veterans real quick, and they like you guys talked about, they can stay with the same therapist for 3 to 4 months, the sessions, and be close proximity. Lots of good things, change is coming. So Appreciate the show, man. Appreciate filling in.
Well,
Have
thanks
fun in
for coming.
Wyoming, Gunny.
Yeah, have fun in Wyoming, Gunny. I hope you have a good time. And Ty, thank you for coming on and hanging out with us as well. But it is about that time to end the show. Let me go over here. All right, you are not alone. Listen, ladies, gents, don't let your dark days win. Show up tomorrow because somebody loves you. This right here, this says it all. In the silence of your struggles, remember, though unseen, you are deeply held in the hearts of others. You are not alone. So reach out to somebody, whether it's Ty, whether it's me, whether it's Tony, whether it's somebody in your close circle. Reach out to somebody because we've all been through it. We've all done it. So reach out to somebody. And this right here, hashtag be someone stranger. Listen, we as humans, we're more apt to talk to a complete stranger than the ones we love the most. So be somebody's stranger. If you're out and about and you see somebody that looks like they're having a bad day, go up to them, say, hey, how you doing? And if they give you the red flags, I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. I'm living the dream. Ask the next hard question. How are you really doing? But you have to be ready for that conversation. It could be a 5-minute conversation, could be an 8-hour conversation. You just have to be ready for that conversation. And then this right here, it takes a village. Listen, there's a whole network of veterans out here that we want to help support you in your journey of transition, in your journey of healing. That's what we're here for. It takes a village. You can't do it alone because you're not alone. So it takes a village. You got to find your village, find your tribe. Gunny talks about it all the time. Pick up your cell phone, go to contacts, and just scroll through it real quick, and then hit your finger on it. Whoever it lands on, call that person. It might be somebody you ain't talked to in 6 years, but call them. If they don't answer, hang up, do it again, and keep doing that until you do reach somebody. You never know. You the person on the other end, you might save their lives. So definitely do the cell phone roulette. And then I want to give a big shout out to our partners, Heroes Media Group, Mr. Adam Bird, who was in chat earlier. Amazing. He has over 50 plus veteran podcasts on his network. So go check out heroesmediagroup.com. Reese Across America Radio. I know I mentioned them earlier today. So that's reaseacrossamerica.org/radio. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now if you're watching this. If not, it's www.reaseacrossamerica.org/radio. You can find Homefront Sitrep on there Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's Thursday night, 11 p.m. Eastern. Military United podcast streams, Elite Engraving, who did this amazing hat here. And then Same Flag, Same Oath.com. Got Your Six Culture. We have a shirt with them. It's written in red crown. It says Marine It Down. Go check out Same Flag, Same Oath.com. And you can find our shirt underneath co-branded. Or you can go to HomeFrontSitrep.com. Check out our website there. You can see all these veteran nonprofits, veteran business, comedians, authors, everything that's on our website there. And then you go to the merch. You can actually click on the link to take you to SameFlagSameOath.com for our shirt. Same thing with our hat. At the end of the year, we get a percentage of each sales from each Elite Engraving and also SameFlagSameOath.com. What Gunny and I are going to do once we get that check, we're going to create a wheel with all these nonprofits. Spin that wheel, whoever it lands on gets that check. So go check out HomeFrontSitrep.com. And then it is about that time of night, guys, ladies, gents, unfortunately. But like we always say on Homefront Sitrep, stay safe out there. We got your six. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find Homefront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there.